We've only got 5 games left. And yes, this is going to sound strange, but because the calendar tells it so, this is a must-win game for the Philadelphia Eagles. Must-win game for the Philadelphia Eagles. Am I overstating the case? YouTube channel, it's Mac and Mac. John McMullen and Jody McDonald. JM, a little cool, a little dark, a little chilly out there. We're right around the corner from the holidays. And oh, by the way, not only are the days to Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, whatever one you celebrate, counting down, so are the days to the Eagles season. We've only got 5 games left. And yes, this is going to sound strange, but because the calendar tells it so, this is a must-win game for the Philadelphia Eagles. Must-win game for the Philadelphia Eagles. Am I overstating the case?
Mathematically, probably. But, yeah, I think they have to win this game. I think they have to, if we're talking playoffs, and I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's such a jumbled mess at the end of the NFC playoff picture. Right now it's Washington 5-6, who would be the last team in. I have a bunch of 5 and 6 teams ahead of the Eagles who are 5 and 7, so they're a little up against it. Certainly, when they look back, if they don't make it, they'll probably look at that Giants game. They'll certainly look at this Jets game if they're not able to win it. However, a couple of the teams ahead of them, New Orleans would be one of them who plays tonight. So that's a big game for Eagles fans to keep an eye on. It's tough. That's a Soapy's choice. It's probably better for them for Dallas to win, to be honest, than for New Orleans. If you want to make the playoffs, again, what's your goal? But they have an advantage. They have an advantage over Atlanta because of the tiebreaker. And I have those 2 games against the Washington football team, who's probably, not definitely, but probably going to be the team you have to jump over to make that 7th spot. But it would be a lot nicer if you had that win over the Jets in your back pocket. You got to the late season bye. I do think from a figurative standpoint, that's probably it. If you go up the Jersey Turnpike in the year of the Jersey Turnpike draft, that's what I'm calling it, where everybody from the Eagles to the Jets and the Giants have 2 picks in the first 10. You lose to 2 teams who got, one of those picks because of how bad they are. That's a bad couple of weeks. That's
Agreed.
A bad couple of weeks.
And if they had beaten the Giants this past week, if Jalen Reagor hangs on to that ball and falls into the end zone, it would be a different view we would have. Certainly going into tonight's Thursday nighter, I went through all the tiebreakers and what needed to happen last week. And here's how the Eagles can get to week 18 and the division could be on the line. Well, it had to start with the Eagles beating the Giants this past week. When they lost to the Giants, that kind of throws all the figuring that I did right out the window. So, yes, now it is more likely a wild card spot that the Eagles would be looking to grab if they're going to get any playoff spot whatsoever. So, yeah, it's actually better for the Cowboys to win tonight than the Saints. And maybe I'll ask you about that game a little bit later. Saints are in the same mess they were when the Eagles beat them 2 weeks ago. They still got questions all over the place as far as availability of key guys on their offense. But I do want to stick with the Eagles first. And the game is coming up against the Jets on Sunday. Yes, I'm planning on being in the house. My daughter and I are heading up together. John McMullen will be in the climate-controlled press box. Yours truly will be roughing it outside with the masses, which I'm very much looking forward to because I haven't been to an NFL game yet this year. So it should be fun on Sunday. They have to win that game, and there is no question, John McMullen, who that quarterback's going to be. You and I talked extensively yesterday about what Gardner Minshew playing could mean to the Eagles, how it could be advantageous for the Eagles, whether the Eagles would dictate it or not. Well, no. Jalen Hurts dictated it yesterday in his very minimalistic way and said, no, I'm the quarterback. I'm good to go. And that's
it's one of the things Jason Kelsey did the same thing as well. I expected the Eagles have done this during the season. They played this competitive advantage game that I kind of chuckle at. And that's why I expected them to keep this going as long as possible, to have the Jets guessing. And it was, I had a conference call later in the afternoon with Robert Saleh, and he was laughing anyway. I'm not buying the ankle injury. It's not like he's not preparing for Jalen Hurts. So I liked it from both sides, and the fact that the Eagles said no, and let's not mess with this. And I think they did it particularly at the quarterback position because there is some questions, and they don't want those questions going further than they need to go. People are still going to talk about it. We've talked about it. Everybody's talked about it. If Jalen Hurts doesn't have his full range of mobility, there's a legitimate question to wonder, will he be effective enough to beat anybody, never mind the New York Jets? And the Eagles stamped it right down and said, no, Jalen did it. Everyone has essentially said he's the quarterback. Now, you always have that. Something can happen in practice and all that kind of stuff. And that's always happens. Jordan Mailata got injured in practice earlier this year when he had to miss a couple games with a sprained knee. That happened in a practice, not a game. So it does happen, but he's online to play. Jason Kelsey's online to play. The bigger question marks would be Jordan Howard. Obviously wasn't able to get out there, and they only had a walkthrough. Third consecutive week on a Wednesday, they've done a walkthrough. So it was a injury estimation, as they call it. And then we'll see Miles Sanders as well as the week continues to go on. He was limited, estimated as limited. He's got the ankle injury. And then you had a couple of illnesses, non-COVID illnesses. So that still exists, and that was Boston Scott and Devontae Smith. So you could see, all the names on that list, Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders, Boston Scott. That's something to keep an eye on.
Question on the fact that yesterday was just a walkthrough. As you noted, it's not a rare occurrence that the Eagles do this more often now than they actually practice. It's an NFL thing as much as it's an Eagles thing. Do they practice enough? Did they get enough time in? We've been looking at Jalen Reagor and his struggles, and what do you do if not Jalen Reagor? You keep telling me, sorry, Greg Ward's just not good enough to play in the National Football League. Other than blocking, do you really want to throw the ball to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside? Okay. Well, how about Kenneth Gainwell? How about they use him in the slot more than they do? And that surely wasn't the plan when they drafted him, to make him a wide receiver, but if you could get him up to speed and get enough snaps for him in practice, maybe you'd be comfortable enough to put him there in the games. Does that even accrue anything if it's just a walkthrough? That he gets a couple of reps in a walkthrough to become a slot receiver? Did the Eagles practice enough?
And I brought up that as well. They're not going to do it, and they're not going to do it because they don't practice enough. And you're right. No, if they want to, well, there's two parts to that. Obviously, first they would want it. They would have to want to do it, which they don't, and they don't because they don't practice enough. So it's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I was going to say, which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Exactly. Which is, I always go back to that Jim Schwartz comment, who has been around for a long time under many systems, under many CBA limitations. And at the end, he said, the off season is for teaching, training camp is for evaluation, and the regular season is for preparation. There's no stinking time. So when I go back to your first question, Jody, did they practice enough? My answer to that would be yes and no. Yes, for the current environment. No. And I've had this larger discussion with you. I think the NFL product stinks right now. Not the athletes, not the players. They're better than they've ever been. But they don't have the time to sharpen their technique and sharpen their fundamentals. And that's why you have a game like on last Thursday on Thanksgiving, where you have 177 penalties called, and they're all legit. For all the people complaining about Sean Hockley and that, I talked about it with you about all those holding calls. Go watch the game. If you DVR'd it, if you taped it, they were all legit.
Yep.
Because guys are grabbing and holding, lack of technique. You know, some of these old school coaches would lose their mind. Why does that happen? Because they don't practice enough, but they can't practice enough because they're limited.
Right.
So the goal shifted, Jody, from getting the guys prepared to keeping them as healthy as possible for as long as possible.
Right. And here's where I separate with the road. Yesterday is a prime example, even though you've told me this has happened several times in the last couple of weeks. Yesterday should have been a practice day, not a walkthrough day. Yes, they have collectively bargained the amount of time that they can practice. So far back, it's almost unrecognizable to guys like you who've been covering the league for streaking up on 20 years, me who's been following it for 40 years. It's not, forget about my dad's NFL. It's not even my NFL anymore. And okay, they did that. You have to adjust to it. You're a fan. How much does it really affect you? Depends on how much you're into the team. I get it. You got to play by the rules. But there are options within the rules. And the Eagles opted yesterday to go with a walkthrough rather than a practice. That to me is a mistake. If you're trying to weigh keeping the guys fresh, keeping the guys healthy, under actually doing things to improve your ability to play on a Sunday, at this stage, I'm leaning toward we got to win the game. We got to do what we got to do to be in the best position to win the game on Sunday and not worry about, oh, well, he's been in the league for 7 years, so we're not going to make him practice. We'll not make anybody practice. We'll just go through a walkthrough. I'm sorry. I think the Eagles are making a tactical mistake.
I understand your part of it. I would throw the one thing you're missing. The reason the Eagles are doing this is their late bye week. And that's why they started. And that's what Nick said. The week he started doing it this way, he's trying to get the guys to the bye week. Now, typically in an NFL schedule, you're most happy if the bye week comes somewhere right in the middle of the season.
Right.
That's the thought process. If they had a bye week in week 8 or week 9, they probably wouldn't be doing this. They probably would be practicing as normally on Wednesday. Now, on the back end of that, you could say, is it that much of a difference? You know, I think it's more of a mental thing than anything else. One of the things, you know, when the arguments came out for expanding the schedule to 17 games, you had all these over-the-top hysterics about player safety and this and that. And look, the 17 games is not helpful, but I think there was this weird thought process that, hey, 16 is fine. You can beat the crap out of yourself for 16 games is fine. But 17, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. It doesn't make a lot of sense from a logic standpoint. Point I'm getting to, it doesn't make a logic, you know, one bye week, if it's in the middle of the season versus week 13, you're banged up or you're not banged up, you have some injury luck, you have some good luck, you have some bad luck. But that's the way NFL teams think, and it becomes this group thing, and, oh, you got to get the players fresh, you got to get them healthy. So I agree with you. Look, they have scaled back practice enough from the old days that you were talking of, that no matter what you do, if you have them in pads every single time you're allowed, it's going to be much less than it ever was in the past. So I tend to agree with you. I would prefer to practice. I would prefer to prepare. But in a case like Gainwell, that kind of stuff isn't going to happen in a regular season in this era of modern football. That's off-season stuff. Mm-hmm. If you're going to change positions and change, unless desperation enters into it. Yeah, if you have 50, I just talked about the running backs. Well, if you don't have your top running back, your backup, your third string running back, You might have to get somebody off the street. We see it all the time. Like quarterback position might be COVID wiped out. With the Denver receiver that had to play quarterback, you might have to do something in a desperation, but nobody wants to do that without the preparation.
And that's where, all right, if you're telling me, Jody, you can't be critical of the Eagles not
No,
having.
you can be critical. I agree. They should use every moment they have. I'm just trying to give you their thought process behind why they're doing it. They're doing it because of the late buy. You can be critical of it. I just add that context because that's their thought process behind why they started it, to get to the bye week as healthy as possible.
And oh, by the way, just so the people know, next week here on Birds 365, when the Eagles are actually in there bye week, they are off from Sunday through when? When they say bye week, they're not kidding. They're not.
No, they have to have the weekend off. That's collectively bargained. You can bring them back Monday. Most teams don't. They'll probably be back.
But that's the following Monday, not this Monday.
Correct.
They're gone for an entire week.
Correct.
They get to do whatever the hell they want for an entire week. Yes. Will the facilities be open if someone wants to come in and work out? Will they allow them to do so? Yeah, sure. But they're not expected.
Well, you also have COVID protocols as well now. So if you're unvaccinated, you got to test every day. All that, you can't go anywhere. They've upped the protocols because of spiking. So that stuff's really fluid. It's difficult. If you have to travel, you have to do different things. They upped them for Thanksgiving because people are going to be around their families. All this, it's messy.
How many players, and I know you don't know this because the Eagles shouldn't reveal this to you or to anybody else, but there's always the chance for speculation. How many players do you think the Eagles have that are unvaccinated?
Not a lot. I mean, way back it was over 90%. They confirmed that. Well over 90% was the terminology I think Howie Roseman used. Ryan Kerrigan, I know, is unvaccinated. Joe Flacco did not know he was unvaccinated till he got to the Jets because I never saw him adhering to protocols. So, but we saw Aaron Rodgers. What the heck he was doing the whole time when he was immunized. So, yeah, I mean, I hate to say it. I'm going to say it. I know people on the stream don't like it when we talk about COVID issues. This is all public-facing PR stuff. I mean, they adhere to these protocols when they want to. They don't when they don't want to. I don't care either way. It's ridiculous. It is. It's public relations grandstand.
Nobody cares till you have a COVID breakout on a team, and then everybody cares. Oh, how did you not follow protocol?
Exactly.
But if you say 90%, so that means on a 50-some-odd man roster, you got 4 or 5 guys who didn't get vaccinated. So those 4 or 5 have to come in and test every day.
Every day.
That's how you would probably have a pretty good guess who's not vaccinated if you sat down in the parking lot and saw them in every day. You go, oh, okay.
Unfortunately, they will not let us in the parking lot to do something. Not that we would, but it's. I mean, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the ways they try to incentivize, whatever term you want to call it, players to get vaccinated, because they made it really, really difficult for players who aren't vaccinated. There are teams, I know Cincinnati is one, Minnesota is another, that have a boatload of unvaccinated players, and it has affected teams like that pretty dramatically. So, if you test positive, you're out for 10 days no matter what. And if the timing is wrong, that's 2 games. Even if you don't have, any symptoms or very light symptoms, even if you could play, you're out. And if the wrong player gets tested positive, you're in a lot of trouble.
And that's why I don't understand. I get it. And again, I don't want to open up a running stream conversation on should you be vaccinated, shouldn't you be vaccinated, the whole political side. I choose not to do that this time, but I do want to say this, so if that's what happened, so be it. That would be enough for me. If I was a guy who was sitting on the fence about whether to be vaccinated or not, and I want to have my choice, and I don't want to be dictated to, and people are still getting COVID even though they've already been vaccinated, for no other reason. If I can make my life easier by getting a shot, that I can actually get away on my bye week rather than have to come into the office every day to get a test, that'd be enough for me. Go ahead, please give me the shot. If for no other reason, you put the whole medical aspect of it and your own personal choice aspect of it. The rules say you can make your life so much easier by getting vaccinated. Get vaccinated.
Yeah. For me, it was even easier than that. I didn't even have to go that far. I had to get vaccinated to do my job, or I couldn't do my job. So that's it. End of conversation for me. No other. I mean, that's it. And by the way, Joe Kraus wants to pay me, I don't know, Jordan, a lot of money. I want to go team friendly. I'm not trying to break the bank, but if I was making that much money, I don't give a hoot, And then there's the aspect. There's been a lot of quarterbacks in this league, starting with Aaron Rodgers, obviously. Look, that position, you got to be available.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that. And there's a lot of them for some reason. We just talked about Joe Flacco, but he's a backup. But even so, Kirk Cousins, Lamar Jackson's one of them, confirmed not vaccinated. There's a couple others I probably can't think of off the top of my head. Man, that would not go over well for me if I'm running a football team.
All right. And as far as we know, Jalen Hurts is vaccinated. But
yeah,
we also know
that
he had a really tough game last week against the Giants. We're debating on the 3 interceptions that he had. Were they all his fault? Were the receivers' not ability to get open a big part of it? Was it a poorly designed play? He's still learning. That's what Jalen told us yesterday. Although
it's like the Zapruder film, by the way, Jody, that last play. Yeah. I've never seen so many screenshots with arrows. Devontae Smith is open. Boy, one thing I do know about fans, they don't know how athletic NFL defensive backs are. They think, and by the way,
guy's got a half a step. He's wide open.
Oh, he's wide open.
No, he's not.
He's wide open. And not only Bradbury's doing that on purpose to make it a tougher throw, and he knows he's got help on the back end. And oh, by the way, that safety's Xavier McKinney, who can move a little bit. So he's playing over the top. And he took a step inside because he's reading the quarterback's eyes. When they see the quarterback go, those safeties move, man, and they move. And it was a tight window throw if he was able to get it out to Devontae Smith when he raised his hand. Aaron Rodgers can make that throw. He can make that throw. He's open. A lot of quarterbacks, they can't make that throw. The Eagles quarterback, I don't want him making that throw, to be honest. But then the other part, which nobody brings up, it was already over by that point. The pass rush forced them to move up by the time Devontae Smith raised his hand. They don't look at that aspect of it as well. Right. It's absurd to me.
One of the things that critics who I don't want to say aren't educated, but apparently
you can say aren't educated,
don't understand it enough. You just correctly described it as a screenshot. That's stop time.
Yeah.
That's the clock's not moving. That's frozen action that isn't really even action. It's a picture. You can make a picture say anything you want. You're not dealing with the reality of the play that we're talking about less than a second of reaction time that Jalen Hurts has got to make sure he's got the ball, that he's got his feet set, that he's got the right angle, that Smith is exactly where he wants to be, that he's got to release the ball and got to be able to get it there on time. And Jalen Smith's got solid arm strength. not above average, not Aaron Rodgers, that's for damn sure. But you don't factor any of that in. You just look at, oh, he's open.
And plus, you don't know the progression of the route. And Nick actually explained the progression of the route. First of all, it was a badly run route, crossing route, Quez Watkins, Devontae Smith. So, number one, they did a really bad job for what they're supposed to accomplish on the route. The progression, 1A was Devontae Smith, 1B was Dallas Goedert. Dallas was running. They took Dallas out of the play, so he was quickly out of it. So they were supposed to get the ball to Devontae Smith, crossing to get the first down, hopefully get out of bounds. So it was bang, bang. That's the progression. That's the progression. And Bradbury, as I said, very savvy cornerback. Anybody who knows, one of the best zone corners, arguably the best zone corner in pro football. He's in the conversation. So he undercuts the route. He flattens it out, as they call it, making it a more difficult touch-like throw. In other words, you got to throw it over him instead of, because he doesn't have as much space. He's not 3 yards in front of the corner. And he's able to do that because he knows he has safety help over the top. And he also knows the route being run. He also knows the goal of the route. The goal of the route is not to turn up the field and raise your hand. That's when the scramble part of it stopped. Bradbury stopping what the Eagles are trying to accomplish on the route. And he did a tremendous job of doing it. And again, people don't understand that part of it. Then when the scramble drill part of it starts, again, Jalen has started to move anyway because of the pass rush, because of the timing, and you have to move to keep the play alive. And by that point, obviously, he's looking at other parts. And it's not necessarily, NFL action, as you mentioned, Jody, happens pretty quickly. It's not, I can look over here, nobody's open. I can look in the middle of the field, nobody's open. I can look on the left of the field. Oh, he's wide open. I'm going to throw the football. And he wasn't wide open, but that's the second part of it. And then the most amusing part of all of this to me is it was a great throw. That should have worked. It maybe was his best throw, his second best throw of the game. It was right there. Why are people complaining? The receiver dropped the stinking football.
Right. Well, I think the people have, all right, again, this is just everyone's got their own personal perception of what people are saying. I think Jalen Reagor's taking enough grief. It's not like Jalen Reagor has gotten a pass on this because, he shouldn't even have thrown it to Reagor. He should have thrown it to Smith. No, people acknowledge Reagor's got to make that catch, plain and simple.
I agree with that part of it. I'm not trying to say. I just mean this mentality. You got to get the ball to Devontae Smith. You got to get the ball to Devontae Smith at the biggest moment of the game. Now, in fact, if he's open, get him the football. If he's taking double coverage, if he's bracketed, if he's taking a lot of attention and somebody else is open on the other side of the field, take that. I mean, that's the beauty of having great players. They want to take them out of the game. They want to give them attention. They want to, and that enables you to go in other directions. And it should have worked. It didn't work. Obviously, it would be a different conversation if it did work.
Right.
But it didn't.
But again, now we've come full circle. I don't have faith that Jalen Reagor's going to make the catch.
Well, that's
yes.
That's why you got to get better from a personnel standpoint.
Right. Could he have forced the ball to Smith? Yes. Could he have potentially gotten it in there? Yes. Could it have been done in that millisecond that he had? Yes. Or it could have been tipped, or it could have been dropped, or it could have been intercepted. He decided not to throw it. He ended up pulling the trigger to Jalen Reagor. It was a good throw, and he was open, and he got his hands on the ball, and he dropped it. So that's all that matters. He dropped it. And I want another option. That's why I'm saying, why don't we practice and get Kenny Gainwell up to speed so he can play in the slot and get Jalen Reagor off the field? That's where we go full circle to the Jets on Sunday. All right, coming back, I do want to talk more about Jalen Hurts saying yesterday he's learning. It's nice. He's learning. He had been very good protecting the football up until this Sunday about the Giants. That's an accurate statement. How long do we have to wait for him to learn? We're down to just 5 games this year. He's had 11 starts now. This isn't Jalen Hurts, the rookie, anymore. Even if you go back to last year, add in the games that he had to the games he had this year, he's now logged more than the season in the NFL. Is the learning curve still a little bit too slow for Jalen Hurts? Come back, talk about it with my partner, John McMullen, in a second, right here on Birds 365.